Let me go ahead and hit record so we can record this session, and then also let me play it and see if you can hear it okay. Let me tell you a quick story. Back when I was in high school, our teacher wanted us to write an essay. But because it was supposed to be a longer paper, he gave us one whole month to finish it. I was a massive procrastinator back then, and since the deadline was so far away, I didn't even think about starting writing yet. Instead, I decided my time was better spent playing video games. Days passed and the deadline was coming closer and closer, but I hadn't written a single word. About 2 days before we had to turn in our essay, I realized the deadline was so close that I might not be able to finish in time. This is when I went into full-on panic mode. With only 2 days left, I started writing with pure focus. Finishing that paper became my number one priority, and everything else became secondary. I didn't think about video games or anything else. All of my focus was on that essay. Thankfully, in the end, I managed to finish and turn in my paper in time. And to top it off, I also got a solid grade. Let me introduce you to the Parkinson's law. The law states this: work expands as to fill the time available for its completion. This might sound a bit confusing, but let me explain what it means. If someone gives you 1 week to mow their lawn, it will take you a whole week to do it. If they give you 1 month, it will take you 1 month. And if they give you 1 year to do it, God forbid, it will take you one whole year. Essentially, the more time you have to complete something, the longer it will take you to finish it. And the less time you have to complete your goal, the more likely it is that you'll complete it in proposed time. But if a goal or a task does not have a specific deadline set, it will most likely never get done. Whenever we have something we want to complete, whether it's an essay for school or mowing the lawn for someone, we make the mistake of thinking that the more time we give ourselves to complete it, the better the end result will be. However, more often than not, most of that time is spent procrastinating, and only a small portion of it is spent on the thing we want to achieve. If someone gave you 1 month to mow their lawn, it would probably take you 29 days before you even began, simply because you know it could be completed in one day. So that's 29 days of procrastinating because you know you have more than enough time before you get started. The same thing happened with my high school essay. Most of the month was spent doing other things, and only a small portion of the time was spent on writing. If I was given a week instead of 1 month to write that same paper, I would have finished it in 1 week. You can think of a deadline as a fire. When the deadline is far away, that fire is small. It doesn't threaten your life yet, that's why you don't extinguish it right away. But instead, you focus on other things. However, as the deadline gets closer and closer, that fire gets bigger and bigger. What eventually happens is that the initially small fire has gotten so big that your whole house might burn down. And now you obviously don't have a choice but to extinguish it as fast as possible. So that becomes your primary focus. When your house is burning down, you don't procrastinate and waste your time on unimportant things. You don't check email for just 10 minutes. You don't have a quick scroll through Twitter or Instagram. Nor do you think about playing video games. No, those things that usually make up a huge part of your procrastination become secondary and unimportant. Instead, extinguishing that fire becomes your number one priority. In other words, because your deadline is so close, or because the fire is so big, you prioritize your tasks much better. You can't afford to procrastinate or get lost in unimportant details like most people tend to do. Instead, you're fully focused on that fire. The Parkinson's law is important to be conscious about from the time management perspective. If you know something can be completed in a day, don't give yourself 2 days to finish it. You might think that giving yourself extra time will get you better results. However, as I've pointed out, most of the time is wasted on unimportant things. And the end result of a shorter deadline is actually oftentimes better, because you're not distracted and you have greater focus. However, you should be reasonable with the time frame of the deadlines. If you know something will take a week to complete, don't set the deadline for tomorrow. This may sound obvious, but it is something people do when they first hear about the Parkinson's law. However, you can still try to push the limits of what is possible, and maybe you'll find some shortcuts along the way. Worst case scenario is you get some work done, but you need to give it a polish. Now, whether your deadline is too short or too far away, it's still better than no deadline at all. Remember, if there is no deadline, your goal will probably never be achieved. So if you don't have a fire that's getting bigger, make sure you create one. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, press that like button. Also, if...
All right. So this is Parkinson's law.
Yeah.
And, you know, to kind of summarize it for me, what it means to me is basically if you're given a certain amount of time to do something, whether it be a lot of time or a short amount of time, you'll get it done. If it's important enough to you, you'll get it done. But if you are, but if you have, you know, many tasks, then, you know, all those small tasks you have that you need to get done, you know, if you're given a lot amount of time to do it, or even if you're given a short amount of time to do it, if it's important enough to you, you'll get it done. So basically what this means is that when we're integrating our tasks into, you know, time management, we've got, as a real estate agent, so many small things we have to do, and also so many large things as well. You know, so if we compartmentalize every single task we have to do and get them into our, you know, time management schedule, then of course we'll get it done. However, if it's essential and very important, then we're going to focus all of our energy into it in order to get it done. And obviously, we don't want things to get to a level where it's an emergency and it's you know, and we need to focus all of our energy onto it. But sometimes, you know, that does happen. Basically, this is all about trying to manage your time so you don't have all those emergencies, but also kind of think about your time as a huge block of time and trying to fit as many of those different things that you find important to do within that big block of time. You know, so, you know, this includes not only real estate stuff that has to get done, but also personal life stuff as well. You know, it's really important to you to, you know, get your kid to bed at a certain time and also make sure that she has enough time in order to sleep, you know, things like that, then you will build that into your schedule and make sure that it happens. Same thing happens with, you know, all these other tasks we have to do, whether they're scheduled and ongoing, you know, that happen on a regular basis, or also one-off tasks that we need to do as well. So for me, this was a really big kind of mind shift, or a really big learning lesson to me. And that was that, you know, if I really wanted to be very successful at real estate, then I would make time for all these things I have to do. You know, if I wanted to have, you know, one transaction and make a certain amount of money, well, what if I could fit all those same things that I have to do in one transaction and do 4 transactions instead, and make that time allotted to be able to complete that? And, you know, it gets to a certain point where if you are able to compartmentalize all those tasks in that time, then you might actually infinitely be able to, you know, have as many transactions as you wanted to, until you get to a point where maybe you actually never sleep. And then maybe it's time to actually, you know, consider your health and well-being and what the actual practical limitations are.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody has those limitations based on their own life and their own commitments, things like that. But this is a great way to kind of help measure out or help guide you into time management, and also understanding your limits of time management as well. You know, when I found out about this, I actually, I was like, oh my gosh, this means that I can do everything. You know, as long as I make time for it, then I can actually, you know, achieve infinite possibilities. Well, now I've gotten to a point where, you know, I've become pretty efficient and understood that, you know, actually there is only a certain amount of time available, And Parkinson's law does have its limitations, but it really helped me understand what those limitations are.
Yeah, no, I think it makes total sense. I mean, I think our mind just kind of works that way with, things that, if you have a certain amount of time, you're gonna, think that you're gonna always be able to do it at a later point. And yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you wait till the very last minute, and then it turns into a huge emergency. Well, you still get it done, but you might have like a little less hair on the top of your head, or a few gray hairs or something. Hopefully that stuff will grow back, and you'll be able to resume your life. And I think that's another part of Parkinson's law too, is that Parkinson's law will adjust as your life makes adjustments as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that's really the big learning lesson here, in my opinion. For me, it was huge when I learned about this, and it's really funny too, because I will mention it every once in a while to people that I think might understand it or might get it, and I found that a lot of people actually already know about it. A lot of the high producing agents that I know, I'll mention it to them and just say, hey, do you know about this? And they'll say, yeah, actually, I have read about it. I do know about it. And I think it maybe becoming more and more popular in pop culture. I don't know. Maybe Tony Robbins is putting it out there or something. But this is I think psychological theory from way back in the 70s. So, and it definitely holds up today, and it's kind of a guiding principle for us in business and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, time management is becoming really trendy, and, time management tools and all that stuff is something that's really in right now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So if you want to do more research on it, definitely it's on the internet, and you can learn more about it. But this is kind of high level view, and like I said, it really, really helped me out when I first learned about it.
Yeah, no, I think definitely if we start kind of working on our schedule a little more and planning for stuff, I think it's going to be good to know, like, when you prioritize something and like this is something that's important to you, to take that, time frame into effect is really important. So
yeah. So I think the big takeaway for you guys is that if you if you have lots of obligations like kids or moving and your own job right now, and also real estate, then if they're all important enough to you, then you hopefully integrate them all.
Okay. All right.
Alrighty. Well, I'll let you guys go. That's really all I had to share, and we'll talk again on Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you later. Bye-bye.
Okay. And Grant, did the agent get that form signed to us, or?
No, we should be getting it today.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, I'll be able to get it to us today, and we'll be able to sign off on that. As far as I know, everything's on track, though. I think everything's ready to deliver soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Dylan.
All right. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.